Good evening, everyone. I want to call this meeting of the City of Kingman City Council on March the 5th, 2024 to order. I will give some time to our clerk, Annie Meredith, for roll call, please.
Thank you. Mayor Watkins is excused this evening. Vice Mayor Samily?
Here.
Councilmember Eric?
Present.
Councilmember Savage?
Here.
Councilmember Scott Staley?
Present.
Councilmember Walker?
Here.
Councilmember Ward?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Today, we will go ahead and have our invocation by Administrative Pastor Richard Felton from the Kingman First Southern Baptist Church. If you would all like to, please join us in standing, and then we'll have the pledge by Councilor Eric.
You bow your heads with me, please. Dear gracious and loving Father, first let me say thank you on behalf of all who are gathered here today. Thank you for abundant blessings you bless us with. Thank you for life you give us and for the health that we need to fulfill our calling. Thank you for the people you surround us with and the friendships we have. Lord, thank you for the ability to be involved in useful work and for the honor of bearing appropriate responsibility. Thank you for giving us the ability to know you and giving us the freedom to walk with you daily. And Lord, thank you for loving us many times in spite of ourselves. In the scriptures, you have said that citizens ought to obey the governing authorities, since you have established those authorities to promote peace and order and justice. Therefore, Lord, I pray for our mayor, for the various levels of city officials, and in particular, for this assembled council. I'm asking that you graciously grant them the wisdom to govern amid the conflicting interests and issues of our times, a sense of the welfare and true needs of our people, a keen thirst for justice and rightness, confidence in what is good and fitting, the ability to work together in harmony, even when there is disagreement. And Lord, I pray for personal peace in their lives and joy in their task. I pray for the agenda set before them today. Lord, please give them assurance of what would please you and what would benefit those who live and work in and around our beloved city of Kingman. It is all these most blessed things I pray in the name of Jesus. Amen. Amen.
Thank you. Call to the public. Comments from the public. Those wishing to address the council should fill out request forms in advance. Comments from the public will be restricted to items not on the agenda, with the exception of those on the consent agenda. There will be no comments allowed that advertise for a particular person or group. Comments should be limited to no longer than 3 minutes. The council may not respond to speakers during call to the public. The council may direct the city manager to study the matter or request the matter be placed on a future agenda. We do have two folks that signed up for a call to the public. Jamie Fitzner, if you will come forward, please.
Good afternoon. I had something happen last week at Centennial Park. I've been walking that park for the better part of 10 years. I probably know 20 people on a daily basis that I high five and bump fist when we're going each way, try and be nice. There's a group of people called the cat ladies that feed the cats over there. I made one comment to them last week, jokingly, that you need to put a sign that says cat crossing. This Filipino lady that been walking down there probably 6 months, she told me that I was a bad guy and she threatened to have me arrested. Now, these people don't realize that when people come in for soccer tournaments, I'm told for soccer tournaments, these people have to pay $2,000 per team. So if you have 6 teams, if I'm not mistaken, that's $12,000 on any given weekend, and they've taken notice of these cats running around because their kids are playing on the fields where the cats are coming out, right across the pathway this wide. So, when she made a comment, I had to do what I was taught at GEO, which is de-escalation on myself. I walked away from the situation. I just went like this and walked away from the situation. A lot of people would have had a fight with her. Very rude, and they're costing the city money. That's just my opinion. Thank you very much.
Sorry. Thank you, sir. Staff, you'll go ahead and get in contact with Mr. Fitzner. All right, our second call to the public is Jade Ming. Hi, welcome.
Hi, thank you, Council. Appreciate your time. I'm here in behalf of Gwen Gilman, who was unable to make it today. She's not feeling under the weather. But I know she sent a document to everybody on the council. She just wanted me to read through that if you have a minute here. And just the biggest thing is that she's just concerned about her street. She lives on Seneca Drive and just the traffic that goes through there. She's really concerned about the safety that's out there, into a point where she mentioned this weekend that she was driving the other day and went through one of the hillocks and had a car end up passing her, but at a point where she had to pull over the side of the road because they were passing much faster than the 25-mile-an-hour speed limit, and so there was a lot of concern there. If you will, let me just go through this, but basically the comparison is between Western and Seneca, Western being 1.5 miles between Beverly and Gordon, and Seneca being 1.1 miles between Wallapai Mountain Road and Southern Avenue. On Western, they have all-way stop signs on Beverly, Sycamore, Airway, Riata Valley, Keno, and Gordon, and Seneca has no stop signs other than the stop signs that are on the east streets coming into it, which there's 4 or 5, I believe, and then the stop sign at the end of the roads. Traffic access to Stockton Hill on Western streets have access to Stockton Hill and beyond, and the following streets: Sycamore, Airway, Riata Valley, Keno, and Gordon, where Seneca only has egress to Wallapai Mountain Road and Southern Avenue. Western is very flat from Beverly to Gordon, where Seneca has 5 blind hillocks. If you're at the bottom of a hillock, it's very hard to see up that hillock and what's coming at you. I was walking out there this morning and did notice that, very much so. So you also have also Seneca has 5 washes coming from the east, then crossing Seneca westward. Traffic is extremely light on Western at all times of the day, where Western has a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit, with a short portion being between Beverly and Airway with a 35-mile-an-hour speed limit. Traffic on Seneca is extremely busy all hours of the day and night, with very few drivers actually traveling at 25 miles per hour. The east sector is a fast-growing portion of the city, and more restrictions need to be placed on the drivers using Seneca to access both Wallapai Mountain Road and Southern Avenue. And then this is directly from her. My husband and I both built our home on Seneca 25 years ago. Traffic speed has always been a problem, but with the housing developments adding to the situation, it is time to protect all the drivers using this primary access to Wallapai Mountain Road. Sincerely, Gwen Gilman. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ming. Staff will get in touch with Ms. Gilman. All right, thank you. So before we go to the consent agenda, I just wanted to make a note on the agenda, new business item C. We will not be hearing that this evening. That will be on a future agenda. So now we'll move to the consent agenda. All matters listed here are considered to be routine by the City Council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items. If discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. Councilors, I know you've had a chance to review the consent agenda. Does anybody wish to remove anything from the consent agenda? What item would that be, Mr. Ward? Is there anything left? No, I'm just kidding. We're removing D, E, F, and G. Does anybody else have anything else they'd like to remove? And H? All right. So we have removed D, E, F, G, and H. I will entertain a motion to approve items A, B, C, and I.
I'll make. No.
D, E, F.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. I have a motion. I'll take a second.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? All right, motion carries. Mr. Ward, would you like to start with D?
Could
I'm
we
sorry.
read the description
Oh,
first?
absolutely.
Thank you.
You're going to make me work tonight. All right, item D of the consent agenda, authorization for the purchase of a unitized asphalt patching unit. This item is for consideration and approval of the purchase of a new unitized asphalt patch truck in the amount of $448,851.61. The current unit is approaching 40 years old. The attached proposal is for a unitized patch truck and includes additional equipment needed for snow and ice control. This will allow the truck and equipment to be better utilized. Arizona State Cooperative Contract Number CTR 069472 is being utilized for this purchase. Staff recommends approval. Mr. Ward.
My question basically is, we budgeted 400,000 for it. They're saying it's 448. I'm wondering what caused the difference.
Thank you. Mr. Palante.
Good evening, Vice Mayor, members of the council. So a couple things contributed to that. First, the cost of chassis. When we were budgeting this time last year, we anticipated a price increase, but the price increases for everything have outpaced what we had anticipated. And so we have that for the chassis and then also the snow plow. If you recall, last year we had a CIP that was for a slide-in salt sandbox and a plow attachment for one of our dump trucks. We opted to go with the system on this truck because the box is existing, so we can utilize that for ice removal as well, should we need it, rather than have a piece of equipment sitting on the ground all the time. And we had to change because the plow that we had originally intended to put on there had a 400-day lead time. So it'd be 400 days from the time we ordered it to the time we got it. And so we saw a price increase having to change brands on that as well.
All right.
Okay, so when did we actually order that truck?
We're requesting to order it right now.
So the time between when we approved it and when we ordered it, the cost went up, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, even from, because we budgeted this time last year for our CIP, so it was about a year lapsed before we got a price. And just like we had with the sweeper, we struggled to actually get a solid quote oftentimes, and even this quote I had to argue with them, said price subject to change. And so from last year when we estimated our price to this point now, so roughly a year, that's the duration for that price increase.
Okay, so the price when we budgeted for it was just an estimate?
Correct.
We didn't have anything solid for it. What was that?
We had gotten quotes and added some on top of the estimate from the vendors, hopefully accounting for price increases. But like I say, the price increases outpaced what we had anticipated.
Okay.
Good. Counselors, anyone else have any questions? All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve item D. Would you like to make that motion?
Yeah, I'll be.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Item E, authorization to accept a proposal from B&F Contracting for Stockton Hill traffic signal updates. This item is for consideration and approval of a proposal for upgrades to the signals at Stockton Hill Road and Keno Avenue and Stockton Hill Road and Gordon Drive in the amount of $457,461.67. These intersections carry high traffic volumes, and installing left turn lanes would improve the level of service for turning vehicles. The improvements include new signal cabinets, wiring, and protected permissive left turns. Staff recommends approval. Counselor Ward?
Excuse me, really quick. We need to make sure everybody's speaking directly into your mics. They're having a hard time hearing you online. Thank you.
Okay. The difference, again, on that one, there's a big difference, $145,000 difference. What?
Same as the trucks, and actually we actually have another agenda item that you'll see in an upcoming for additional signal cabinets. The price increases for the poles, the mast arms, and the signal cabinet were significant. We saw a 50% increase in the signal cabinet alone from the time we ordered one last year to the quotes we have for some we need to order for replacements we have upcoming. So aluminum and steel, both the prices have went up much faster than we had anticipated.
Any other questions, Mr. Ward?
No.
Any other counselors have any other questions? All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve item E.
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. On to item F. Authorization to accept a contract with National Glazing Solutions LLC for KPD facility ballistic improvements. This item is for consideration and approval of a contract for security upgrades at the Kingman Police Department in the amount of $291,089.38. This project is the second phase of upgrades to the facility's exterior and was approved in the fiscal year 24 projects. The Interlocal Purchasing System Cooperative Contract 211001 is being utilized for this purchase. Staff recommends approval. Counselor Ward.
Again, that's a big swing, almost $100,000.
Understood. So this one, I actually didn't, we had some historic pricing. There was a, call it phase one of KPD, included some doors and some of the reception area glass was upgraded. And so we used similar pricing for that, but the mullions for the existing glass where we're working actually need to be replaced as well. And so I don't know that the materials cost have gone up. Like I say, it's just we used what pricing we did have. This isn't something we do every day. This type of work is unique to some extent, I guess. It's not a local company we can get this vending from as well.
Okay.
Mr. Ward?
That was my question on all of them. It's a big swing, and it just seems out of proportion for
Well,
ordering.
and I see your concern. I think it's important. I mean, we'll go through each item, and is it cost of materials? Is it equipment? Is it lag time in ordering? We'll identify those each individually. Would you like to make a motion, or does any other counselor have any questions?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we approve it.
Okay, I have a motion to approve item F. I'll entertain a second.
I'll second.
I have a second. Motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries. On to item G. Consideration of an amendment to Design Professionals contract for Grace Neal's trunk sewer main. The Sunrise Engineering Incorporated original agreement dated February 21st, 2023 was approved for a total not to exceed $323,700. To allow for an additional review, Sunrise Engineering Incorporated has requested an additional $34,700, making the new total not to exceed $358,400 for all planned design phases of Grace Neal Trunk Sewer Main. Staff recommends approval. Mr. Ward.
I'm wondering, why do we need the extra review? What is what does that do for us?
Sure. Councilman Ward, I understand your question. A while back, we approved the contract for the construction manager at risk contract for the same project. This is the eventual contractor that will go on to actually build the project. Part of their scope of work is to provide input to the drawings and specifications and to do value engineering. Currently, the plans are at 60% complete. Sunrise's original contract was to provide final plans after the 60% review. But since we've got the contractor coming on board to provide additional input, we'd kind of like to have a 90% review for us to kind of see the plans after the contractors had their input. So that's what this is. It's basically a 90% review point that'll allow us to review the plans after that input.
Okay, and how does that help the city?
Well, if we didn't have this additional review, the contractor would come in, make their recommendations, and collaborate with our design engineer, and then they would produce the final set of plans with no opportunity for the city to comment on the plans. Basically, that's the end of their contract right there, is once they submit the final set of plans. So what we'd like to have is an opportunity for the city to look at the plans one more time before the plans are finalized.
Okay. That answers my question.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. Thank you, Mr. Harmon. Does anyone else have any questions?
I would add that I think this might help clear something up here. This would hopefully divert a change order in the future, correct? From the contractor, because they're involved and we're getting the engineer involved again?
That's correct. And again, it's important that the city have one more opportunity to review the drawings before they're finalized for construction. So I think it would actually help also with avoiding change orders in the future.
Thank you, Counselor Walker. Any other
Basically,
questions?
my question on the next one was the same thing, and that explains it.
Okay, good. Would you like to make a motion, Mr. Ward?
I would make a motion that we approve G&H.
We're going to do one at a time.
Okay, G.
I don't want to get in trouble. I already feel him glaring at me.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. We have a motion. We have a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries. On to H. Consideration of an amendment to design professionals contract for Santa Rosa Transmission Main. Sunrise Engineering Incorporated, original agreement dated December 1st, 2020 was approved for a total not to exceed $284,000. To allow an additional review, Sunrise Engineering Incorporated has requested an additional $40,500, making the new total not to exceed $324,500 for all planned design phases of Santa Rosa Transmission Main. Staff recommends approval. Counselor Ward.
I'm assuming that that's the same answer as the last one. And I'll make a motion that we approve it.
All right, we have a motion to approve item H. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, moving on.
We're in the wrong business.
All right, we have no old business today, so we're going to move on to new business. New business, item A, 2019 Economic Development Strategy Update. Mr. Bennett Bradley, welcome.
Good evening, Vice Mayor, Council. Would you share the screen? Yeah? Okay. You just enlarge it, or you got it? There, got it. Took it over from me. All right, so good evening. What I would like to go over tonight with you, with the council, is a strategy update that we worked with the commission on. And so I'm just going to jump right into it. And I want to give a little background. Some of you have heard this before, but there are some new council members since the last time we've talked about this. This strategy was completed and adopted in January of 2019. It was a collaborative effort. There were over 25 strategies that were laid out. And recently, we worked with the Economic Development Advisory Commission, which mission is to provide advice, guidance in creating and implementing and revising any economic development master plan. The commission shall review the city's progress in fulfilling that plan. So that's what we worked with them on, and we did this a little while back. We took our time after that, and we went in and made those edits, and that is the document that was sent to you guys in your backup, is that edited document. I'm going to go over some of the items that were edited, as well as obviously the items that were left in, and we're going to continue to work on those items. So What we did, we removed from that plan the adopted vision and goals. That's all been completed. The part of the plan was to update the zoning code and development code. That was done in June 2021. The branding strategy was completed and adopted in June of 2020. We're currently finishing up and consolidated tourism marketing initiatives under a single organization, which is the Kingman Tourism Department. 5 top visitor infrastructure projects were identified, and that's continuing to ongo. We continually do that. One of the projects that we presented last meeting was one of those visitor projects that we're working on. And so that will continue to work through that plan. And then we also finalized the Main Street organization. That was completed as well. In this plan, we updated demographics, population growth from 2019, 31,253. Right now, it's at about 35,812. We saw a substantial increase in Kingman's median household income since we implemented this plan, which is phenomenal, and it's about a 30% increase from 39,000 to 52,000. Unemployment in 2019, that's going to vary. We just did some updates on that. That'll change from year to year. One of the items that we put as a recommendation in the future is an economic development organization, standalone facility. So that was added as a goal in the future. And then we're looking at possible opportunities for grant funding of that, partnerships with other entities. We've had conversations with groups like Wave JTED, who are also looking at similar type facilities. So we're going to continue those conversations going forward. We're going to keep in the plan to continue to establish action teams, to handle different items that come up. We're always looking to strengthen our communication with our community, whether it's the downtown streetscape project that we see that's going on, and businesses, have questions about that. So that's a Facebook presence, press releases, monthly meetings. So we're going to continue to implement those type of things. All these things: maintain strong leadership, team building, training. It's all listed in the plan. We're just going to continue that. Improve first impressions by eliminating neglected properties. This is ongoing. As you enter the city, these are our main focal points that come into the city, and so we want those to continue to look well and look good. Or if they don't, to work with the different entities to try to accomplish that. And so that might be code enforcement. One of the things that council will continually have to look at is ways to increase and stabilize the city's revenue. So we didn't take that out of the plan. That's something that's always going to be front and center, that really is going to be a council task. And of course, we want to continue to maintain the staff, that we've had. We work on business retention expansion programs on a daily basis as we take calls. We are going to look at doing a retail business expansion and retention survey this year. Continue to keep the real estate fresh on our marketing and advertising. We work with retail, and they look at properties that are, the city doesn't own them, but they're potential development opportunities. And so we're working with the brokers and property owners to market and list those properties on the industrial side as well as the commercial side. We actually have we have on our website through an IDX feed, we pull in properties that are listed on the MLS, only commercial properties. So that way people visiting our site or interested parties can take a look at the inventory that we have. We continue to implement a consistent, focused, and well-funded marketing and business attraction program. We support necessary data, tools, and materials through our choosekingman.com website. And I talked about the available sites. So, a lot of these, when you go through the plan, these are recommendations. Retail visitation program, we do that. Entrepreneurial ecosystem that encourages local startups. That's going to kind of tie back into that economic development facility that we're going to also work towards. We're not going to stop continuing to actively pursue retail, and we have a consultant that you guys have talked with, and we're going to put that in the budget this year, continue to move forward with that, so you'll see that coming forward. We have a hospitality customer service program with our hoteliers that our tourism department works with them, and as a component of that will be the business retention expansion program focused on those hotels. So we did this update, we really looked through it, we made those changes, but we'll be going on 5-6 years since the original plan came out. And we have seen a lot of changes. And we feel like we're going to see a lot more changes coming up. I presented in the last council meeting some of the stuff going on out at the industrial park. We just have a lot of things that are getting ready to come down through the pike. And so with that, we are submitting for a grant to do a full-fledged update and new look at the Kingman plan. That is going to be a grant that we're going to go after to pay for it all. So the goal is for this next year to have that. If we are not awarded the grant, then we're going to push that off a year and budget it into the following year. But we're first going to attempt to try to do that. So we do qualify for the grant, and we're also going to partner. There's a double component of the grant. It's that as well as a feasibility study for the event center. So that grant is being worked on. It's actually been submitted, and we should have an update for that in the coming future. So with that, you were sent the entire plan. What we're asking is for you guys just to approve that until we move forward with the next phase. So that's
All
what I
right.
have.
Thank you, Bennett. Counselor Savage, I believe this is your commission. Did you have anything to add?
I met with it, we had the airport meeting yesterday. Is there only one avenue for, we got the 700 acres coming up, okay? So are those properties, plots, I know they're not plotted out in drainage and all that yet. Is that marketed as well as far as upcoming stuff that we have available?
Currently, we are not marketing that.
Should we?
I think we're still beyond the scope, asking some of those questions, because this is more just about the plan itself, and I don't know how you're weaving that into
could
there.
play into the future. It wasn't addressed in this plan, but I think down the road, if we get this grant and that group comes in, those are things that will
So that
probably
will
be
be
looked at.
included?
It potentially could,
Okay.
but there's other factors, I think, beyond that that have to do with going through the process with the FAA.
That will be coming up shortly. So,
Yeah.
Okay.
But that will also be talked about if we are able to do that future, get the grant and do that. All that will be, we will really want that addressed in there.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Counselors, any other questions? Yep. Counselor Staley.
Along those lines, I'm curious why we didn't put in our strategy getting the land release, including the inland port in there, because those are all really important.
Inland port was after. we did this.
Okay,
So unfortunately, we were done, and we'd already gone through that process. We can do amendments. I think the land release,
I mean,
Yeah.
I'd like to see it in there as we go and start pushing on our federal elected officials to be able to show this is a part of our plan for moving our town forward and expanding our economy.
and I'd have to look and see, I believe the industrial park, back when we did it, was mentioned. It was 2019. We were starting that process. I just don't know if it was mentioned. So,
I don't
yeah,
think
I don't know that it
I don't
was.
think that it is in there, so that's something that I would like to see added in, are some of the things that we are working towards in the industrial park as part of our general plan for the economy.
Yeah.
And economic development. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? I concur. I would have liked to see those two items included, so I was wondering if we could do an amendment. I didn't know how often is this document going to be updated?
We could put it before council again in 2 weeks. We can put it before you in a month. And so we can go back and look. I want to make sure it wasn't put in. I just failed to mention it as a bullet point.
Well, if we don't add it now, it won't come before us for another year, correct?
If you make the request to have that looked at by us and added, we can bring it back and add it. And I'm pretty sure we can do that.
Okay,
Yeah. Nothing would stop us from doing that.
okay. So I would like to have an amendment done.
Okay.
I don't know how the rest of the council feels. We do want this in our plan because this is the plan that goes out to everybody about how we're going to move forward with our strategy. And so I too want to see those two items.
And I can do the I-40 trade port.
Yes, please. Yes. Because like you said, there's a lot going on, but if we don't talk about it and put it in a document, then we're the only ones that know what's going on. So, it's important to do. So I would entertain a motion to table this.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
I have a motion, I have a second. All those in favor of tabling this?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? All right, thanks,
Thank you.
Bennett. All right, item B, review and planning for the Kingman Route 66 Festival and Centennial. Staff will provide an overview of the success and growth of the Kingman Route 66 Festival from 2021 through 2023 and seek direction from council on planning for the next 3 years leading into the 2026 Route 66 Centennial. Discussion and possible action. Welcome, Mr. Noble.
Thank you, Vice Mayor, members of council. Did I close this out? Let me pull it back up. Oh.
Oh, no.
I just minimized the PDF.
No, I think you just closed the Zoom.
Aaron, can you bring it back up for me? Oh, never mind, I got it.
Why is this not?
Okay, I'll need you to reopen it. I'm not sure what happened on this end. There we go. Do I need to close it from here and then log back in? He can't talk back to me.
Yours go.
Thank you, Annie. Thank you for your patience. I'm very happy for our colleagues in the clerk's office and IT department. Last week, I attended a trade show, meeting with about 30 representatives from the travel industry from all over the world. They're very excited about Route 66, the infrastructure that we're putting in, the events we're putting on. They're excited about the drive-through shield, the heart sign, and the events, and they want to see what it is that we're presenting that they can send people to experience the centennial of Route 66. So we wanted to come to council and get your feedback, get your direction on where you'd like to see this go. And to start, let me share where we're coming from. There we are. So the most recent festival in October 2023, we had about 9,000 visitors, about 10,000 visits. So there's some people that came both days. They were dwelling at the event for a little over an hour and a half on average. So we had a pretty good amount of people that were coming and enjoying the event. The event was over 2 days, Friday and Saturday. We started at 2 o'clock on Friday and we started at 10 o'clock on Saturday. Both days ended at 9. So you can see that we had a good buildup of people coming in between 10 and 2 o'clock. Pretty much from noon all the way through the end of 8. That 8 p.m. is 8 to 9. We had over 2,000 people there on average. We peaked about 4,000 people in the middle of the event about 6 p.m. Duration of visits, so there were some people that came in, they were there for half an hour or less, but quite a few people that stayed for a longer duration of time, including about 2,000 people that were there for over 2.5 hours. Day of attendance, of course, Saturday is over the weekend. That's going to be when we're going to have the most people go, but we still had quite a few people that came in Friday for the event. A little about 3,000 on Friday, 7,500 on Saturday. Total visits, about 9,900 between the 2 days from 19 states. So we see that growing. 93% was from Arizona. Of course, this is only in its third year. It's something that we're trying to grow. 83% came in Golden Valley. So that means we had about 17% come from outside of the community. Average attendance. This is over the last 3 years. I know this is a little bit duplicative from the presentation I gave a couple months ago, but I just kind of want to give you the background before we go into the rest of the event. So the first year, of course, things were just kind of coming out of the pandemic restrictions, 5,300 over 2 days. Peak attendance, about 1,800 people. State of origin, we had about 4 different states. 2022, as you remember last year or the year before, we had the second day pretty much get rained out. So we still had a pretty good amount of attendance for a day and about a quarter that we had hosted the events. 7 states of origin. Last year we had about 9,000 people come in. And we had a spend time, like I said, 94 minutes, a little hour and a half. That does say 15 states, but it's actually about 19 states that we had reported according to our mobile analytics tracking software that we subscribe to, Placer AI. That's where we're getting all of this data from. Top 12 Route 66 in the USA. The Route 66 Fest was number 9 last year. This is just 2023. These numbers can fluctuate a little bit. So you see the Fun Run was number 11 last year. If we look at 2022 numbers, there were actually over 10,000 people that attended the Fun Run. So these will fluctuate, but I thought this is pretty good, showing that of the top 12 US events, and again, this is according to Placer AI data. It's the mobile data tracking software, and we're using one set system to track all of the different events across the country. 3 of them were in Kingman, which I think is a pretty good testament to our cultural part of what Route 66 is about to our community. And all 3 of these events are events that we, as the City of Kingman Office of Tourism, are involved in. With the last festival, we had quite a few influencers that came into the event, and we got a lot of extra awareness that was created from it. So there were 10 different videos on YouTube that were posted by 6 different YouTubers, which was pretty exciting for us. When I looked at a lot of these other events that I had looked at in that list, very few of them had YouTubers come in and show what was going on in the event. This one, there's a lot of people that came in. They showed what it was like. They showed the experience of attending the event and broadcast that out. So that's something if people are looking at for a Route 66 sort of celebration, they can find that on YouTube and they can, you know, watch what the event was like, and that's going to help us to promote it into the future. And this is beyond what we recorded. We actually had one of our colleagues from the IT department come, and they had recorded over both days, captured a lot of really good high quality video that we can use in promoting the event. And we also hired a couple local videographers to come and capture some of the event and produce some things that we can use in promotional pieces later on. But this is all non-paid promotion from people that wanted to come and experience what the event was about and share it out with the world. This is the master plan that we've been working on over the last 3 years at Lewis Kingman Park. There's 9.3 acres. We, over the last 3 years, have really fine-tuned into where we can put vendors, where we can put generators, where we can plug into existing power, where we can put our zip line, the train rides, the car show, the camper show, all of these different things that we really have to try to squeeze into a space, but make it walkable, make it something that people can experience the event without feeling like they have to go long durations, block after block. They can experience it all right in this park, and it's a nice, shady, grassy space. So just kind of a list of the things that are accommodated, but also highlighting the things that this particular venue makes it easy for us to host. We have the car show, the motorcycle show. Any area where we've got blacktop, we can put one of those on. But the number of vendors that we can put in, this really does provide a lot of space. It provides space on blacktop, space on grass. Different vendors like different areas to vend their products, to hang out for 2 days. The graffiti sign contest and Cadillac Ranch experience. We've got infrastructure, including, you know, the big Cadillacs, the posts for those to go down into, space to be able to host those without having the public, you know, breathing in paint fumes and different things. So it really gives us the adequate space to keep that a safe experience. Spectator tables and seating in the grass areas and the shady areas. Event-wide craft beer gardens. So because 3 sides of that park are fenced in, it's pretty easy to fence in the front side of the event, and then the whole event is a beer garden. Instead of just keeping it in one single space, we can have it as part of the experience throughout the event. The displays with the chalk artists, neon signs, we've got plenty of space to put that out, and people can still walk around and see those. Tow and show vintage camper, camp out. This is something that it'd be very difficult to duplicate in a different area of the city on Route 66. It's something where we have plenty of space to pull things in. Of those 10 YouTube videos that I had hinted to before, 5 of those were all about the Vintage Camper Show. So that's something I see as a real opportunity for us to build on that and continue to you know, build on that event as part of one of the aspects of our festival. Stage and bleachers. One nice thing about this space is we can pretty centrally locate our bands and our music and have it go throughout the location of the event. If you think of the fun run, if you've been to that downtown, you'll have music in one area and it might reach out half a block this way, a block that way, and the rest of the events, you know, you have car shows, you have vendors, but it's really difficult to get music to go through multiple blocks and have that over a large space. So in the park, we're able to consolidate things in pretty tightly and have that music create ambiance throughout the event. As well as the zip line. You have to have about 250 feet of space to have the zip line, and it's got to be cleared out so people aren't walking under people that are zipping through. You've got to have that over space where they can set up the zip line and, you know, have that blocked off throughout the time. That's one of the more popular attractions at our event. So duplicating that in another space could definitely produce challenges. Parking is another major aspect. So we have 5.6 acres in the adjacent lot that can accommodate about 700 vehicles. The car show area, if you think about it, people that are coming to an event, the ones that go to the car show are also spectators as well as event participants. So we've got space for about 155 cars. And then for vendor parking, about 60 vehicles with trailers. We put those right on Andy Devine adjacent to the lot, as well as about 375 feet of linear space parking for our staff and volunteers. Altogether, it's almost 1,000 spaces in parking. Compared to the fairgrounds, the main parking area is about 1,500 cars as they can accommodate. So if you think about they're having 30, 40,000 people coming in, we still have room to grow, even with what we have. But it's something that can really accommodate what we're trying to build as we're building this event with parking. So we are 3 years in. We've had 21, 22, 23. I'm not saying we're ending with the centennial, but leading up to the centennial, building the event into what we want it to be and what we want to show people that we can offer as an experience on Route 66. We've got 3 years to go. Our preference would be the same format, same time of year, same location, but obviously we want to come to council and get council's input on what you'd like to see. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Counselors, questions? Counselor Eric?
I attended the last one and with my family, and I had a blast. It was fantastic. I thought it was very smooth. The only thing is I didn't do downtown because it was more of a hassle than it was worth, and I know that caused confusion. And I feel like this park is built for this. I also know that you've worked very hard on the powerhouse, and we've worked very hard on upgrading downtown, and I don't want to just glaze over it and just say this is it and this is where it's going to be. I really want to put on our critical thinking caps and see if there's a possible solution for downtown where we have the powerhouse and the Angel of 66, we have Locomotive Park, which is a staple of Kingman, and we have this new streetscape downtown with tons of local vendors and business that would also benefit with TPT and whatnot. Do you have a plan or alternative to where we hosted this downtown, not just with Metcalf and Locomotive Park, but also incorporating the new streetscape?
That's a good question, Councilor Eric. We have looked at downtown spaces. So not like looking at the two different areas, Locomotive Park and the Powerhouse, and the new area combined. That's quite a stretch. One of the things, the feedback that we got from people, especially elderly people, people with wheelchairs, people with small children and strollers, is having something that's a little bit more compact is more doable for families coming in and experiencing what we have. So we've looked at it more of, would we look at the new area on Beale Street, basically from 3rd to 6th Street, or would we look at having it at Locomotive Park and Metcalf Park and utilizing Beale Street between those? Both of those are about a little over 6 acres, so it's about 2/3 the space that we have if we use this one consolidated space. The concerns that I have...
6 acres each, right?
Yeah, about 6.3, 6.7
So
between the two.
So about 13 acres total.
You could do about 13 acres total. When I look at downtown area with the renovated street space, it could be very difficult to get vendors on the street. We have the bump outs, so if you try to put vendors in the center, you're not going to be able to have them back to back. You have vendors that kind of have back to one side of the street or the other. You don't have enough room to put them on the sidewalks. You could put a few of them in, but really the doors going into the businesses are not that far apart. You might accommodate a vendor here and there, so it could be a challenge trying to put vendors in among the businesses and then also add in, your zip lines, your bounce houses, the different things there. I think the car show aspect could be really great there. The only thing is, with this being a Route 66 festival, if we have it up on that area, the only area we're going to touch Route 66 is if you close off 4th Street, and have it touch right down that way. So it makes it more of an off 66 fest. it is an option that you could do, but I think you would lose out on, the beer garden going throughout.
The
You wouldn't
camp out
have
would
the
be
vintage
gone
camper
too,
show.
right?
I'm sorry?
The camp out would be gone?
Right.
Yeah, okay.
If
And
we look,
parking would be pretty much non-existent.
you'd have to find, like the Fun
By
Run
the
and
high
other
school?
downtown events, you'd have to find outside areas to park. I think when we have a lot of the events downtown that have car shows, most of the attendants are car show participants. You don't have as many spectators because it is harder to find parking nearby to come in and enjoy the show.
Thank you. Yes, Counselor Savage?
Thank you for bringing that up, Counselor Eric, because I'm going to touch on this a little bit as well. I know we did have stuff downtown, and do we contract out from the city side with the shuttles?
We did the last 2 years to incorporate downtown, because we had, the first year it was coordinated along with Chillin' on Beale Street and some different activities that a couple of the restaurants downtown were having. This last year, since we worked with another event promoter to put something on at Kingman, or at Locomotive Park on Saturday, we had shuttles going back and forth both days.
Do you have any numbers of the amount of people that were shuttled?
The first year, very few, but you have to remember it was still during the pandemic. I think the second year we had maybe between 100 and 200. Not a huge amount, but there were some people that were utilizing it, and it was still kind of a new, novel service that was being offered in the area.
And then I have a question for Mike. With the improvements that we passed for Lewis Kingman, are those getting done this year before that event happens?
That's the plan, but we don't have the schedule yet. Until the PO is done, we don't have the work schedule for that yet. So
Okay.
that's the hope that
The
happens, though.
hopes,
So,
and that's
yeah.
in October?
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Okay, thank you.
We have a pretty good gap in between the events that are there, so we think we're going to be able to do that. But like I said, we don't have the exact schedule yet. And as soon as we have that, we're going to get it to council.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Counselor Eric?
Is it possible to use the field from the high school as a big green space?
That's something we could possibly talk to KUSD about. I don't know if they'd be open to doing that. The one thing is that would once again, be outside of the beer garden area. You couldn't have any alcohol on city property. So,
But you could potentially do the camp out there, you could do the zip line there, you could do a lot of other events there. It's a big green space as well. Just curious. I don't know. I'm just asking.
yeah, I don't know. I'd have to reach out to the school district and see if they'd be willing to do that. I know years ago they had the fun run on that space. That was with a different facilities manager, and with the new facilities manager, I don't think they've had many things that have been able to utilize that. I know when you have the Festival of the Arts and the different events, they open that area up for parking for customers to come and park in that parking lot to go to Metcalf Park. But as far as utilizing the fields, since they've invested in the upgrades in the fields the last few years when they reopened the high school, since Lee Williams High School has opened up as a high school as opposed to middle school, I don't think they've opened that up to anybody since.
Without the field, I'm in total agreement. With the field, it raises a question mark. So if we could find out an answer and see if that's a possibility.
I can do that, Councilmember Eric. The one thing that I caution against is pushing this back too far. Traditionally, we would get the vendor applications, all of that out in March. So that's why we're coming to you now to get an answer so we can figure out how to start promoting it. If we do that, it's certainly doable. We can work around things, but it does push back the launch date on when we can start promoting the festival and lining things up.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Counselor Staley?
Yes, thank you. I'm a big advocate for downtown, but I believe that this event is perfect in this park. I like having it at Kingman Lewis for all the reasons that you stated. The zip line is the biggest hit with my kids. We have to go every year just so they can ride that zip line over and over again. It is a lot of fun. We do a lot of events in downtown. We have all the big First Friday events, which are just getting bigger and bigger, parades. There are plenty of events to support downtown and downtown businesses. I don't see anything wrong with having an event uptown especially with the improvements that we just approved for Kingman Lewis Park. So I'm of the opinion that it's a great event for Kingman Lewis and it fits there perfectly. I know there were some concerns last year. People were confused. They went downtown, and thought that's where the whole festival was and didn't realize things were uptown, and vice versa. People were at Kingman Lewis and then they didn't realize things were downtown. So if we're gonna spread it out again, like we did before, and I know that was a separate event under a different organizer, but if we do that, we have to somehow get the word out that this is the festival and then there are additional things happening downtown at this other park. But I hear what everybody's saying, but I really like having it at Kingman Lewis. I think that's an underutilized park and it's perfect for this one event. And the parking's nice, and with the new bridge to get across, so you don't have to go all the way around out into the street, it's even better. So I like seeing it here and would support that.
Thank you. Any other counselors have any other comments? Counselor Walker?
I would like to make a comment. I'd just like to see staff work with maybe the downtown association to see if there's something we could tie into that weekend to have more events going on downtown, because downtown is turning out pretty nice. So we'd like to keep that supported too.
We could look at shuttles again, add that in, work with, like the first year, there were several of the restaurants that put entertainment on during the event, and encourage that as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right. Do you have the direction that you are needing? Yeah. Okay. So you made good notes. Is this going to come back to us, or are we going to
No,
vote
I'm
tonight?
looking for direction now.
Okay.
Yeah, so do you, I think
Okay.
there's
So I think the
outline
direction is
proposed.
to hold it at the Lewis Kingman Park and work with the downtown to maybe hold some events for them to encourage participation and attendance downtown as well. Is that correct? Is that the right direction?
Yes.
All right.
Okay.
Good summary.
Thank
All
you.
right. I'll entertain a motion.
Okay. I will make that motion.
I'll second.
We have a motion. We have a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Motion carries. Now you have your direction.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to department reports. We have a legislative update.
Did we skip C?
No, C was pulled. Yeah, yeah. We good? All right, legislative update. Interim Deputy City Manager Moline.
Thank you, Vice Mayor and Council. Tonight we've got Tom Dorn with the Dorn Policy Group. He's going to present the first of several monthly legislative updates to you this evening. In his legislative updates, he'll provide you with the status of the state's budget, and he will also provide you with how some of those closely monitored bills that we're monitoring anyhow are moving through the committees, as well as those that might impact us are moving through the committees as well. Tom.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. You look good in that seat. It's good to see all of you today. I was hoping to make the drive today, but unfortunately there were 4 bills that I was deeply involved in that showed up on the Senate agenda, so I couldn't make it last minute. But I worked with Tina to prepare a couple slides for you and then go over some of the items that you've asked me to report to you on a monthly basis. I don't know, Tina, do you have those for the?
I can get those up, absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Annie.
Thanks, Annie. Okay, it's just two brief slides to just give you an overview on what's going on right now. Down at the Capitol, we are well over the halfway mark, everything down at the state Capitol, but that's constitutionally. As you know, it's 100 days. The legislature is supposed to be there the second Monday in January, and finish the Saturday of the 100th day, which is usually in mid to late April. I doubt that's going to happen. There's some interruptions that are occurring, as well as the ongoing budget battle, and we're going to cover some of that. So kind of what's the buzz down at the Capitol right now is what I call it. Right now there are you can sense it. You can sense the tension starting to build between the governor and the Republican legislature. The bills are very much close on party lines for the most part, 31-29 in the House and 16-14 in the Senate. The Republicans are holding off bills that they don't think they have the 16 votes for if someone is absent or sick or out of town. So everyone's starting to put on their poker faces a lot more, especially as we get into the home stretch, hopefully. The governor, for her part, she vetoed a bill. She did pass the election reform, and there's some other things that are headed her way. She most likely will veto. We don't have significant, the one thing about the Republican legislature that they're changing this year, instead of sending bills up right away, as message bills, they're doing the route of the ballot. So House concurrent resolutions and Senate concurrent resolutions, those are referendums where the legislature refers an item to the ballot. As you know, initiatives are initiated by the people, but the referrals are a way to get around Governor Hobbs and her veto stamp on many of the issues that she said she was going to veto. And this also is something the Republicans often use. They did it back with Napolitano. They try to get around the governor and go straight to the people and have them vote on it, on an issue. And it'll drive Republican turnout. But on the Democratic side, there are some initiatives out there that might help drive Democrats to the ballot. So while they can't refer them through the legislature, they can help support some initiatives that will drive Democrats to vote. And those are out there too. One of the big things that people are concerned about now down at the Capitol, as well as the county recorders and others, is the ballot, how it's going to be huge. Especially as the legislature goes down, has so many of these referrals, and which has, matter of fact, it has the Phoenix business community, the Maricopa County business community concerned because their transportation sales tax needs to be extended, and it's been proven if a ballot's too big, people just vote no on everything. So we'll see where that all goes. Just want to mention that I've been working with, Bennett and I went to a meeting with DEQ, just wanted to let you know, and he went on and met with the governor's office, I think in ADOT, but we're working on the the I-40 corridor, the hydrogen thing. So hopefully we'll make progress on that, but it's good to see him involved in all of that and making the inland port and everything come to a fruition, especially with some federal money, if that's able to happen. We're able to get that. Other things, the governor was in Mexico. The U of A mess, that is really taking a lot of time and energy from the governor, having to fix the big shortfall there. And then another item that we're dealing with is the legislature decided to take off 20 of them to go to Israel in the middle of a war, in the middle of a legislative session. So it's really unfortunate. They say that they're going to try to it's not going to impact the session, and hopefully that will not, because everyone else wants to go on a trip too in May and June. So we'll see what happens. Anyway, with regard to the budget negotiations, have that up in front of you there. We are not in a good spot, and we have $835 million shortfall in this fiscal year. And back in the old days, those of you that remember have been around, when we had a shortfall, we used to go into session and cut the budget, and state agencies and things would be cut to balance it. But it seems like now we just ride it out, and then we'll fix it in the budget as we fix the budget for next year. I don't know if that's a better strategy or not, but they used to stop the bleeding and then plan for the next year based on a balanced budget. But as you'll see on what I have there for you, it's 835 and then 875. And then they have this one big thing called, which is interesting, it's oxymoron, ongoing one time. So you only need the legislature to have a term like that. It's an ongoing one-time expenditure. So it was in the $2.5 billion surplus last year, and a lot of it had to do, with school buildings and some other legitimate expenses. But it was taken out of the one-time monies, and it was not built into the base. So in order, while they got it started with one-time monies, they want to continue it. So when you add that 369 million in, we're looking at a $2.79 billion shortfall over the next 2 years. So some people ask, is it raining? Do we use the rainy day or not? And it's interesting, nobody wants to touch the rainy day fund. And that's okay. We should probably cut all these back. Of course, we don't want our projects cut back for the city of Kingman, of course. And just like us, that's how everyone else is. If a project was already passed last year, we certainly don't want to see it clawed back. So anyway, and with regard to the session timeline, who knows what that is? I mean, it could be anything. They may follow the Constitution and be done in 100 days, or this can drag on again. And the one thing that's probably going for all of us, hoping for a shorter session, is Speaker Toma is running for Congresswoman Debbie Lesko's seat. He probably wants to get out sooner rather than later. It'd be to the governor's advantage to keep everybody in longer. That's what Napolitano used to do when she was the governor and the Republicans were in charge. Any questions on the budget or anything I've covered so far? Before I cover some bills?
Counselors, any questions? So I do have a question about the ongoing one-time monies. So you don't see any of that being cut?
Probably not. What it is, it's you got the school repairs. I have it right here. $183 million for school facilities board school repairs. $73 million for the settlement of the Department of Corrections health program, and then that was $113 million for the Department of Corrections health, and another $73 million for some required health expenses. So the Department of Health or Access. So those probably will be continued in order. I think the whole idea there was to settle some payments, and that needs to continue. They cannot claw that back. Those are things that needed to be done, especially if they were driven by the legal with the Department of Corrections on the healthcare. And then I know the governor doesn't want to pull back anything on school repairs.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
No questions, we'll move on.
Okay. With regard to some of the major issues that I've listed, I mean, there's many issues, but these are on the bill listing report that we send the city every week. But I just wanted to cover some of the big ones that we've been dealing with. And this year, more than, of course, there's the water issues, but planning and zoning and housing in the way cities operate in responding to developers and home builders. That obviously is driven by Senate President Warren Peterson, who is a developer, and Ben Toma, who's a realtor. And so, the real estate and the growth industry definitely has some people in a position. So the Home Builders Association is working. They're having a field day as far as getting legislation introduced and working with key legislators to get things moved along. First, though, with regard to just to go down some of these bills quickly, 2060, the non-expansion, that is something that we actually support because it has to do with retiring acreage in the water and making sure that the water is still available for the municipalities. So the cities have been supportive of this, and then as well as the it's mainly agriculture, and the Sierra Club is opposed to it. 2297 is the same bill. This is Biasucci's bill. And just so you know, Biasucci and Gillette both voted yes on 2060. On 2097, they both voted yes on this, and Biasucci sponsored it. I was just curious if, I know the home builders are behind it, and he is the majority leader, so I know that it might have come from other places, but I didn't know if any of it came from the district at all. I haven't asked him about it, but I didn't know if it seems more of an, changing commercial properties to residential and making sure that a certain portion of that is affordable housing. So it has been driven by the hotel industry, the builders, and those against it have really been the cities. I'm sure your planning director is probably aware of this legislation. and all of these bills. So through the Planning Association, I'm sure. Regarding 2316, this is a bill, this failed. This had to do with having to, the cities were against it. The manufactured housing folks are for it. It did fail. Biasucci made a motion to bring it back. But this had to do with funding for, it came out of the Grand Canyon. If you knew, Grand Canyon University had a mobile home park they were acquiring, and the costs associated with the families and having to relocate. So that's, but it would be an incredible cost to the cities. 2414, that's the one where we have 2.9 million for Airway Avenue, 8.8 million for Eastern Street, and 9.9 million for Rancho Santa Fe I-40 interchange. So, there's no money, as everybody in the Appropriations Committee tells you. There's no money, but this is the request that John Gillette's really pushing to make sure that these three projects are out there. And I agree with that philosophy, because if you're not out there pushing these projects, especially the I-40 Rancho Santa Fe, people forget about it. And as if so there's a lot of people still pushing for projects, not only in transportation, but in other areas, because you just don't want people to think that your problem is solved. Some other issues with regard to 2518, that passed out. That is Biasucci and Gillette both supported that one. Also has yet to be assigned in the Senate. 2570, the planning, the design of, and it's also, that's Biasucci and Borelli, the Senate Bill 1112. They're the same thing. And it has to do, it's brought to you by the Freedom Caucus and the Goldwater Institute and the Liberty Caucus. They don't want houses to look the same, and they don't want it's almost like an anti-HOA bill. The cities are opposed to it because, as you know, cities, I don't know if Kingman does that with regard to if you have any HOAs or insist upon them, but a lot of the cities in urban areas use them to kind of do their work for them, make sure the neighborhoods are kept. But that bill is moving along in Borelli. And like I said, I think it's more a leadership bill that's being carried by the majority leaders. And like I've said to y'all before, sometimes when they're in positions, you're like, why are they carrying this? It's because they're the majority leaders. And so sometimes their positions may not be about, Kingman, Havasu, Bullhead, and Parker. And that it's because they're in leadership. And that may be a case here. On HCR 2023, this is something that, obviously the cities are very concerned about. This is the nuisance. It's going to be on the ballot. They passed it out, and this is a case of getting around the governor. So it's going to be on the ballot. And this is, if someone feels, and mainly it has to do with homelessness, that's the target, public drunkenness. If the city is not taking care of, if the city is not following the laws that are on the books, a person can petition to get the refund of their property taxes from the city, county, or any other government entity if they're not doing what they need to do to enforce the laws. So that is that is truly a burden on the cities, and I just think it's a lawyer's dream. The next, and that passed out on party line vote 16-12. So, and it also passed out on party lines 31-29, I believe, over in the House. So that's that one. There's another HCR that I put on there in HCR 2051. I don't see it happening because it's so vague. Gillette and Biasucci both voted yes on it, but about creating a toolbox for water for rural Arizona, and it's extremely vague, and it might even be a placeholder for a future referendum because it's been assigned to the Senate committee where it could be amended. So they may hold it until they decide what else they want to put on the ballot. The planning and design of restrictions, prohibition, like I told you, that is the same one Biasucci and Borelli are running. The big water one, that is the one where I prepared a draft letter for you. And I don't know if you had a chance to review that. It's still timely to be able to send that. Senate Bill 1221. We have the governor's side of everything and protecting rural Arizona. And then you have Senator Sina Kerr's bill, which is 1221. And while credit is due to the farming, the ag industry, in trying to come up with some innovative ideas on how to address water, and especially in rural areas, this does fall short in that it really boxes us in that it's very bureaucratic, and there's elected boards, and it has to do with the agriculture. You know, the ag community would kind of dominate these boards, and the conservation is extremely limited, and it would, you can only conserve about 4%, up to 10% of your water. And as you see in the letter, I kind of explain all that, where, for the Wallapai Basin, you would only be able to conserve even if this board approves it. So will these ag interests approve it when you have water as a commodity that can be transferred elsewhere? So this is extremely complicated and complex. And at this point, I do not see the governor signing this. But I know that's where we end up in the budget discussions. Well, I mean, it's going to be water, but water's going to someone's going to have to give somewhere in order for us to get a budget. And so we'll see how committed the governor is to the cities as well as the rural parts of Arizona. And then the other one, the Borelli bill on the pumping, that Colorado River, it's stalled. I think that bill is going to sit for a while 1221 moves around, and there are plenty of meetings happening. There were a couple this week. They're meeting daily on that issue. So, Madam Mayor, Vice Mayor, I'd be happy to answer any questions. These are just some of the bills that I thought I'd highlight. If there's any specific ones that you're interested in, I can look them up and give you a report on them. But as of right now, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Tom, for that summary. Does the council have any questions for Mr. Dorn? Any comments, directions? We appreciate your time. You gave us a lot of great information, and we will hear from you again.
Very good. Hopefully it'll be in person. So
Yes.
Thank you very much. All right.
All right,
Bye-bye.
thank you. All right, moving on to department reports. Item number B, weapons in public facilities. Mr. Cooper.
Yes, that would be me. Before interim city manager Grady Miller left, he asked me to just kind of give council a bit of a background on this policy that was adopted. I couldn't find a date, so I'm recalling it's about roughly 2008, 2009. When we did this, it's more anecdotal why we did it, but I believe some of the folks up in the front office felt uncomfortable when individuals would come in with some weapons. It basically made them feel uncomfortable. So at that point in time, the city took or asked me to draft a policy that conforms with the state statute. And basically, you can go to the next slide. The policy, that's just the summary of it, but basically what it is if you're bringing a firearm, a handgun into the city complex, you need to drop it off in one of the lock boxes we have. That's part of the state statute that allows that. It only applies to the city complex. I'm not going to read through that. I don't think you can all read that. It's pretty straightforward. That's what it does. Next slide. The statute provides a list of all these places where firearms are exempted. So I just wanted to make sure everybody understood that this could be widely applied to a number of different places. Next slide. So what I did is just try to figure out what other folks were doing, and I didn't get a lot of responses. I would say I got less than 10. I emailed city attorneys, talked to a couple of folks, and basically what I found was one city allowed citizens to carry in their city hall, and basically they had originally prohibited, but when that statute came in that required the lock boxes, they didn't want to install the lock boxes, so they decided they would just let folks carry weapons in the city hall. I didn't find any other cities that allowed weapons. Doesn't mean they're not out there, but I didn't call every city in the state. I found no cities that allowed employees, because there was a question about allowing employees carrying weapons. No one, to the best of my knowledge, allows that. If you go to the next slide, nor does at least Southwest Risk, because we had contacted our insurance carrier, because everything's insurance. They weren't aware of any cities that allowed that. They did express some concern if we were changing our policy because of obviously the liability issues of either allowing folks to bring them into the city complex, bring them to city council meetings, or if we were to allow employees to carry weapons. They expressed some shock at some of those changes. If we were to make some of those changes in the future, we would definitely have to notify the risk carrier, and there would be some ramifications regarding our coverage, how it would affect our coverage, and what would the costs be. I know this is an issue that there's passion on both sides. I don't have a lot more to add to this. This was a pretty basic issue that we addressed many, many, many years ago. We don't have a lot of folks coming in with weapons. Annie gets them once or twice a year that someone comes in using the lockbox. That again is just the city complex. There's obviously the court. They can't go into the police station. Yeah, it's really short and sweet and simple, and that's kind of where we're at.
Thank you, Mr. Cooper. Council, do you have any comments? Mr. Ward?
Carl, when the county switched over to where they took the lockers out and allowed to carry, did their insurance go up?
I'm going to make some assumptions that there may have been some adjustments, but I did not ask. Like for our case, I don't have a quote. I don't know what that's going to happen. That's just the information that the carrier relayed to us.
Well, when I read what the county did, I read all the back and forth leading up to it.
Right.
But I never did see whether or not their insurance actually increased. I sent an email to Sam Evers, but I never got a reply. I was just curious.
Yeah, and I know they did, they had some armed guards that I think they stationed for a while. They did a number of things that they kind of phased through, and it was a very tumultuous time, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, when that happened. And yes, the county decided to change their policy after a short time.
Well, I know I carry there as well as a lot of other people. This is about the only place that I don't.
Yeah.
And I just wondered whether you did anything in depth on that, or.
I didn't call to ask if their prices would have changed. And again, because they're in a different kind of risk carrier group, so I don't know exactly how that would pan out. And like I say, our communication with our folks was just expressing that this may happen, and if it does, they would have to go out and do some research to come up with any costs that may be incurred. There may not be any, but I would suspect there may be some adjustments that we would have to look at that may or may not. I don't know what it would be.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other comments? All right. Thank you, Mr. Cooper.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Moving on to department reports. Item C, Downtown Business Extension Zone Guidelines. Mr. Planti?
Good evening, Vice Mayor, Council. In your packet, I included a draft of the Business Extension Zone Guide. And so what we've been working on with the downtown redevelopment, at one point we had a parklet pedlet program, and that was kind of cumbersome because it has to go through an encroachment and insurance and everything. Not that we're going to get rid of everything, but we wanted to make that a little clearer, a little easier for people, applicants namely, to navigate, that want to use the area outside of their business that is in the right-of-way. And so we brought this back to you, or brought this to you guys to get some input and get some feedback from council. We do have a stakeholder meeting. Becky from the chamber was great to set up a meeting. We have one coming on March 11th at 5:30, so we can get feedback from the businesses as well. But wanted to take an opportunity to see if council had any feedback or anything that they'd like to add or have us adjust.
Council? Councilor Staley?
I'm glad to hear that you're going to meet with the businesses downtown for feedback. I can see that a lot of work has gone into this, but I guess my biggest concern, well, let's start with this. I noticed that there's sandwich boards, the marketing boards are allowed, but there's a rule that you can only have your business name and logo on the board. So that would mean that if I had a restaurant, I couldn't put like my soup of the day or something like that on. Okay, so my question is this: what are you gonna do about, we have a business downtown that already has big sandwich boards out that displays some political opinions. Is the city of Kingman gonna go and ask him to take those down because it does not fit in with these new rules about sandwich boards?
So honestly, I would probably ask Carl for some help in that question because it is in the right of way. We may have some room if it's a hazard, but Carl can probably help me on that
So
one.
before you answer that then, sorry to interrupt, but my next question was about enforcement. Who will enforce these rules? Who will make sure that everybody has their permits, they're up to date, and who's gonna go to the business and say, you are operating outside of our guidelines and you have to change it, and then what if they don't? Yeah, that's you.
That's me. Sorry, I was looking to the deputy city manager who does operation stuff. So I would guess the enforcement arm, but it would be through development services with their code enforcement people. I'm not exactly sure what they're called. They're going to be the people who will be addressing sign violations. Going back to the content of the sign, that's always a big squirrely problem. If it was up to the attorney, there would be no signs because you need to be very careful how you regulate signs. But I think we can do some things because we're calling it commercial signs. So there is some ability to regulate some of these commercial signs a little bit more. But we always want to be careful about what we do allow and what we don't allow. So if we keep it specific what we're going to do and we do it, it makes it much easier to withstand any kind of challenges.
Well, I think you might get the feedback from the businesses that they're going to want to use those sandwich boards for more than, they already have a sign on their building. The sandwich board is, the Healthy Bar is going to want to put what their special is, or, Kingman Center for the Arts is going to want to put what kind of events they have going on for their education. So a sandwich board is more than just your business name. It's usually it's a reason to get somebody right in the door. But that rule is in here that it's only your business name. And I have a problem with starting, adopting new rules that we're not going to enforce because we already have problems with code enforcement enforcing our other rules. And so I can't imagine that if I call and say, the Healthy Bar has their soup of the day on their sandwich board today, and that's not allowed, I can't imagine that code enforcement's can really go down there and talk to them about it. And then we're the ones that are going to get the phone calls when we're not enforcing the rules. So those are this is great, but my concern is that we're not going to enforce them. And then you're going to have the businesses that do follow rules, and you're going to have the ones that don't, and it's going to become a problem.
So if I can just provide some feedback to that, that's why we're here, is to point those out. Quite honestly, we pulled up samples from other agencies and had those combined. The sign portion was actually a comment we received internally because we sent this internal for some comments as well. And that points back to our planning and zoning regs related to signage. I don't think it was quite that specific, but as far as having the soup of the day or something on there, I wouldn't anticipate that being an issue. So that's something we can definitely adjust.
It's just one example of how we could start having problems. There's a lot in here. So I would like to defer to the businesses that are downtown. I'd like them to be able to look through this. But there are a lot of rules and regulations in here. And again, if we're not going to enforce them, I don't know that we should adopt them.
So a big part of what that is, quite honestly, is the encroachments that were done before. You have some, they're not parklets or pedlets, those went through the program and those were evaluated and some feedback provided to the businesses. There were other extensions that were extended from the business into the right-of-way, because keep in mind, these are zero setback buildings, they set on the property line.
Right.
And so when they extend onto the sidewalk, with almost all instances, maybe 2 businesses, 3 in the downtown that I can think of off the top of my head, actually have some amount of frontage or private property from their building to the right-of-way. And so what we ended up a lot with was people closing in gaps and making less than temporary enclosures, and they didn't meet ADA. And so from my perspective, again, we looked at the whole picture of how the program would work, but that is really the bigger picture that we're looking at, is consistency and ADA compliance throughout. And so, whatever feedback you guys have for signage or any of those can be removed. Again, these were samples we pulled from other places.
Could I add one comment about those encroachments that no one wants to hear from me? The gift clause talks about how we cannot give away city money, funds, property for nothing. So those encroachments onto city right-of-way to generate money, a for-profit business, is a violation of the gift clause. So part of the things that we need to work on addressing is them paying to encroach on the city right-of-way, as well as providing insurance, because it's the city right-of-way, and we want to make sure that we're not liable for somebody getting injured. If they're going to encroach and we allow that, then the liability is going to stay on them, not necessarily us, or we have that coverage. So I just wanted to make sure, and I know some of that's addressed in here, I just want to point that out, that we kind of got away with that with the expansion of the parklets and pedlets with the COVID, and things weren't quite as strictly enforced. But it's always been kind of an issue that I've had in the past that we've kind of let go. But I think we really need to address it much more seriously.
So then the enforcement part is important.
The enforcement part's important.
Yeah, okay.
Any other counselors have any comments?
Very minor.
Counselor Eric?
As I was going through this, I noticed that not everything was referred to in text. There was a little bit of confusion, for example, on James talking about on that page with design guidelines. The text refers to, but it doesn't refer to 3.6. A lot more text. Business. Then I looked at 320 in the no section. I didn't know why that was not allowed. So if there was a way to clarify or reference to each picture to make clear, that'd be nice.
Yeah, great. So we have, again, some of the internal staff comments, actually looked at a couple of those and trying to clarify why we can't do those. Okay, it's ADA, it's accessibility, it's something that we're out. So definitely we're on top of that one.
All right. Any other comments? I just had a couple. I just wanted to encourage all the downtown businesses to attend that meeting on the 11th. You said it was at
5:30 at the chamber.
5:30 at the chamber or the MCC building.
Correct.
I also wanted to know what is our part in reaching out to the businesses to notify them different ways that this meeting is being held, because it is important. This is something that we only want to do once. We want to make sure that we get it right. And so I want to make sure that we're noticing and inviting all the businesses in as many ways as possible to get them to come, because their feedback is extremely important in this planning process, because I too want to hear from the businesses. I don't want to just lay down a bunch of guidelines that don't work for the business owners that do business downtown. So I want to make sure we get it right.
Understood. I agree with you on that. And so we worked with Becky, the same contact list we had for stakeholders for the downtown streetscape project, infrastructure project is what we've used for that. If you guys have other requests or ideas for us to reach out with, then we're certainly willing to do that.
I just want to emphasize the importance of the meeting. So, you know, this is the foundation for what's going to, you know, be laid down as far as what we're going to enforce upon and what council is going to, approve. So I just want to put that out there.
Understood, thank you.
Just one more.
Counselor Staley?
Yeah, I wanted to ask if you've reached out to Kingman Main Street to let them know about this meeting.
I have not directly, but we'll make sure that they're aware of it if they're not already.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Jack.
Yep.
All right. Pavement Preservation Monthly Update, item D. I believe that's you too, Jack.
Yeah, I get to hang out with you guys a lot. Good evening again. So, Annie, can you pull up my, if you don't mind? I don't want to mess it up like Josh did. So while we're waiting, some of the slides will look familiar, some of them I've updated. And so really the bulk of the work that's been completed is the chip seal, or I'm sorry, the crack seal that's been ongoing. Oh, sorry. It's okay. Thank you, Annie. So updated a couple of the maps on here just to reflect the work that has been completed to date. Again, this first map is just showing all the work that is scheduled to be completed for fiscal year 24. So by June 30th, all these roads will have had work done on them of varying types. The legend on the side shows whether it's a cape seal like the dark oranges are, conventional chip seal. We had some asphalt replacement that are red. And so, again, that just reflects what's in there. That's actually on our website as well, so people can view that. Here's the updated portion, work completed. So again, we started with $10.8 million as a beginning budget. Part of that was used, and then $11 million funded for the work that we completed on Andy Devine. It actually wrapped up before the beginning of this fiscal year. And so to date, we've updated that number. We're at $8.9 million, almost $9 million worth of work. That consisted a lot of residential District 3's crack seal, which was just over $1 million, which is actually complete. We wrapped that up last week, did punch list drive-throughs and everything. So aside from our crews going through and prepping that for chip seal, that area is completed. And so we still have our in-house crew, our city crew, working on Residential District 2. I just show an overall picture of it. It's difficult to go road by road to show you where we're at, but we're roughly a third of the way through that. So we're about 10 miles worth of roadway in out of just right at 30 miles that need to be completed for crack seal. Big number is the amount of crack seal that we've used between Residential Districts 1, 2, and 3. As of today, as of Friday rather, we were at 747,000 pounds of rubber that's been applied in those districts. So by the time we're done, District 2 and 3, we'll get those prepped up, and we will be prepped for 2 additional chip seals in those districts in this upcoming fiscal year. And our anticipation or our goal is to actually get District 4 crack sealed and ready for chip seal along with the others for next fiscal year. Again, that's getting to a new budget. We've got pretty much everything encumbered at the moment. And so by the end of this, we'll have treated about 2 million square feet for fiscal year 24. That's roughly half of our network, just slightly under. Oh, can you switch me? Oh, there it is. So this is showing the work completed to date. The big change on this again is this light blue area east of Andy Devine to, west of Andy Devine over to the western area around the golf course south of I-40. So that is Residential District 3. Again, that's complete. That was about 27 miles worth of roadway that was done. And again, we're going to be prepping that and making sure everything's ready past the crack seal for chip seal. The rest of these, the dark oranges, we talked about it a little bit last time. We've applied the first treatment, which was the rubberized chip, and those will be coming back in the spring for, spring and summer for the final coating, which is a type 2 micro. It's like a thin pavement almost. Oops, sorry. So again, this is just the residential District 3 crack seal. That's all completed. You will look in here and you're going to say, hey, there's some roadways missing. Keep in mind, we separated our arterials and collectors from our straight residentials, and that was based on our functional class map. So the main one you'll probably pick out in there is Pasadena. Pasadena is actually classified as a collector. So that'll be upcoming with additional work, but we'll complete that whole area in the same time frame. Residential District 2, again, this is showing the whole district. We're on the, right now, working on the east side of Andy Devine, and we're about 10 miles into that. And there's about 30 miles in total, I think 30.8 or something. So we're working our way through that. Had some delays with weather. The rain puts us to a stop, and then we have to let the ground actually dry out for a little bit before we restart, or it degrades the longevity of our crack seal. And with that, I try and answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Jack. Counselors, do you have any questions for Jack? All right. Thank you.
All right, thank you guys. Have a good evening.
All right. Item number 6, announcements by mayor, council members, and city manager. I'll start with you, acting city manager.
Nothing tonight. Thank you, Vice Mayor.
All right. Counselor Walker?
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Counselor Savage?
Nothing tonight.
Counselor Ward? Counselor Staley?
I would just quickly say that yesterday, Counselor Savage and Ward and I attended the ribbon cutting for the new trailhead at White Cliffs, and it's just right next to Cahill. The views are incredible. I strongly encourage everybody to go. Even if you're not going to go hiking, go up there and have a picnic. The views of downtown and even beyond are incredible. They're breathtaking. So we had a great time in it. It's a really fantastic project. I don't know if everybody knows, but White Cliffs is now 240 acres, and that's preserved desert right in the center, almost center of Kingman. And it is going to be a real treat for generations to come to be able to go out and use those hiking and biking trails. So quite an accomplishment for our Parks Department. That was my announcement.
Thank you, Counselor Staley. Counselor Eric?
I had walked the phase 3 of downtown, and I met with some of the business owners in that area, and they expressed some pain that they were feeling with how the downscape project or streetscape project has affected their business. And then I reached out to Tina and let her know, and along with Josh and Bennett, and they said that they were working on potential solutions to help alleviate the burden of dealing with that construction.
All right, thank you. I just wanted to say that I attended the Parks and Rec Golf Commission, and a couple of things that are coming up, capital projects. They're going to be working on replacing the poles and the netting at the golf course, so I wanted to let all the golfers know about that. There's lots of events coming up as we come into spring, so I encourage you to check with Parks and Rec. There's all sorts of Easter stuff coming up, drive-in movies, Easter bunny stuff, family camp out. There's lots going on. Tis the season. The pools are going to open on May 27th. Junior golf is going to start sometime in April. And you mentioned the opening of the new trailhead. So I wanted to encourage our citizens out there to go and check out Parks and Rec because they have a lot going on. So there is always something to do in Kingman. All right, with that, council requests for future reports and updates. Councilor Eric. Councilor Staley.
Yeah, I have 2 items that are not exactly a report or update, but I would like the council to consider having a booth at the May 1st Friday event so that we can introduce the new city manager and also be available to the public. And I'd also like to ask how everybody feels about holding a town hall event in June with the same intention of introducing the new city manager and giving that person the opportunity to hear straight from the public about some of the concerns our citizens have.
All right. Ms. Moline, you have that?
Yes, I do. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Counselor Ward? No? Counselor Savage? Counselor Walker?
Nothing.
All right, and I have nothing this evening. All right, we are going to go into executive session. Council may go into executive session pursuant to ARS 38-431.03A1 to establish the parameters for the city manager contract and direct staff to enter into negotiations with the selected candidate. I will entertain a motion to go into executive session.
I'll make that motion.
All right, we have a motion, we have a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.
5-minute break?
Everybody, upon returning from executive session, we as a council move to direct staff to enter into contract negotiations with Tim Walsh. We are very excited to bring him aboard, and we welcome you. So any council have anything that they would like to say?
Can I
All
get
right.
that in the form of a motion, please?
Yes, I would like that in the form of a motion.
So moved.
All right, we have a motion.
I'll second that.
We have a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned.